Well, my name's John Hanley. I recently turned 50 and I have MND. I was diagnosed back in June 2016 after about 3.5 years of investigations of not knowing what it was. And yeah, so coming up to 3 years this June. My starting point for this whole schmozzle was back in sort of late 2012. I was starting to lose my balance. I was still playing Masters Aussie rules, but I was losing my balance quite a bit and wondering why I was falling over and getting dressed for work and that sort of thing, just falling over onto the bed for no reason. So I saw my GP about it, and he asked me to go and have some tests done, some MRIs and that sort of thing, to rule out anything too sinister. And while that was all being done, they had an episode that they thought was a stroke, but it actually wasn't. There was no evidence of it. So something was obviously happening, and that started my whole process of seeing a few neurologists. Some sort of threw their hands in the air and didn't know what to think, and then one guy persevered for a couple of years, suspected it might be MND, and eventually sent me along to see Rob at the Royal Brisbane, and from there it was about 4 months to get a formal diagnosis of MND. So yeah, it was a long haul. So when I was first diagnosed, it was a lot of different emotions you go through, but it was very weird for Lisa and I in that it had taken so long to get a diagnosis. Our initial emotion was relief in me finally knowing what it was that I had, knowing it wasn't going to be a good outcome, but knowing what I had and that it wasn't all just something going on in my head was, a big relief for both of us. Lots of emotions come about as a result of a diagnosis. Like the obvious one is sort of shock, I guess. What the hell, and and then fear, anger will eventually come as to why it's happened. And not knowing why it's happened, that makes you the angriest, I guess. And your emotions are just all over the place. You go through the whole denial, doubt, surely, and they must be wrong. And then eventually acceptance. And so it's a big roller coaster of emotions. And but eventually I came to grips with it. I was in a bit of a different position to, I guess, newly diagnosed patients who walk into see their GP and then get sent off to a neurologist straight away, and then they find out, pretty quickly. So I had a long time to get ready for whatever it was going to be. And I hate using the word journey because I don't like it, but for someone who is newly diagnosed with MND, it's, as we know, there's only about 2,000 of us in Australia at any one time. And the thing with MND is everyone's going to be different. It's not like a lot of other diseases where people have similar symptoms and they go through similar treatments and things like that. My advice was, would be to someone who's newly diagnosed is, yes, you're going to have all those raw emotions come out straight away, and it's going to be a big shock, and and there's bound to be tears and that sort of thing. But my advice would be, don't panic. It's a terrible thing that's going to happen, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It could be a long haul, it could be a short haul, but it's not going to happen, in the next 24 hours. So don't panic. Take time to think about it, process it. Don't try and take in all the information that the hospital or your GP tries to give you straight away, because most of it's going to go in one ear in and straight back out the other, because your emotions may not be ready to take all that information. and don't be upset that you haven't taken in all that information, because you're going to have a lot of time to talk to people and professionals and allied health people who will be able to help you answer questions. When I was first officially diagnosed, after this 3-year sort of investigation, I remember sitting with the neurologist and a few other neuros from around the world. They happened to be visiting, and I hadn't actually been told, okay, this is what you've got. So, but I was being told what to look out for, what to expect, and that sort of thing. And Rob just asked me, he said, have you got any questions? And I said, well, we just want to know what it is, because no one had actually said to us, it's MND. We'd sort of gathered it was. And he said, yeah, well, it's MND. And we both we must have just given a smile or a giggle or something. And he looked at us very strangely and said, well, you seem happy about that. And I said, well, I'm not happy, but it's a massive relief to finally know or put a name to what this is. And I know, my brain isn't playing tricks with me, and I'm not imagining all of this now. So, because it was getting, you do have your times of doubt, why things are happening. So that was while it was a very sort of a dark moment, it was to us it was a little bit comical, and we had a little giggle. And so telling people that you've got a terminal illness is not a fun thing to do, and everybody's going to have their own way of handling it, and in this day of social media, I guess some people just get on and tell the world, and it's out there. My close friends and family knew there was something going on with me sort of in the lead up to it, so I never really announced what I had. I was just starting to tell people when they directly asked me. I didn't want to sort of make a big deal of it, and people just sort of, I guess the grapevine started working, and I was in the liquor industry for a long time. So as soon as someone finds out in the liquor industry, it was everywhere. And in terms of social media and that sort of thing, through Facebook, I never actually announced it or anything like that. I just started liking a few things that were happening on, because and it was around the time that the Ice Bucket Challenge was happening, so I started sort of sharing that and that sort of thing, and that was my way of doing what I could to raise awareness. So I never actually made an announcement as such. I didn't send out any emails, I didn't make any phone calls or group texts or anything like that, and people, just started putting two and two together, and they saw me walking by that stage I was walking with a pushwalker, so I assumed they gathered from there that something not so good was happening. The one thing I found about once people knew I had MND was that many people deal with it in different ways. Some people are quite happy to ask you questions about it, and some people, I don't know very much about this disease, so I'm not even going to raise it. I'm happy to talk about it because I'd had a fair while to get used to the idea, I guess. But that's just me too. That's I'll chat to anyone about anything. So being in a sales job for so long, that was my life. So I'm happy to talk about it, and I'm happy to answer questions because I figure the more people know about this, the more awareness is going to be out there, and that's not just for to raise funds for research and hopefully find a cure one day, but that's also to get those people who are close to me who aren't comfortable with it, getting them comfortable with it, because people out there, friends and family, they may really want to help you with this, but they don't know how. And through talking about it and saying, oh look, I have It's going to be an issue with our house. That's how our house was renovated, was because I started talking to people, and someone just asked me one day and said, "What are you going to do about home?" And I said, "Well, we may have to move into a low set house." And from that, someone spoke to someone else, and then someone spoke to someone else, and all of a sudden there's a team of people here wanting to renovate our house so that we could stay in our family home. So talking about it really sort of solved a lot of problems for us, and we didn't have to broach a subject that we were getting quite anxious about. But that's not everyone. I guess not everyone's going to be as comfortable answering that. And some people, and I remember talking to someone early in the piece, and they said, don't be surprised if you lose some friends out of this, because they just don't know how to handle it. And I certainly went through that. My brother was a perfect example. He just didn't know how to handle it. His way of solving problems was always, he was very business minded and that sort of thing, and he was flawed that he couldn't fix this problem. It's with money or whatever. He was very standoffish about it. And a very good friend of mine was he said to me, he said, "I just don't know how to talk to you about this. How do I talk to someone who knows they're going to die? And it could be soon." So it's a very it can be a very emotional subject for not only the person who's been diagnosed, but for those people around them. Someone who I thought would have been an absolute mess, my mother, she's been fantastic. She hasn't cried once in front of me in the last 3 years. And I thought she would have been, because we'd just lost Dad when I started getting sick. So I thought she would have been terrible, but no, she was great. So it's amazing the strength you see in some people who you didn't think would have that strength, but then people who you think do have a lot of strength all of a sudden turn to jelly, and that's fine. And that's why I find if you talk to people about your situation, and my philosophy has always been, it's just something that's happened, and if it's not defining me, it's not going to stop me from being who I am. I'm still the same old kid I used to be. I'm still singing around the house and annoying people. So to me, it's been a fairly easy transition, and sometimes that makes me feel guilty in that I don't feel worse about it. And I'm sure some people look at me and think, you should feel really crappy about having this disease, but you don't. Why? And it's but that's just my way of dealing with it. I mean, there's a lot more worse off people than me. This disease at the moment doesn't hurt me. I never feel sick from it. I'm not going through any nasty treatments or anything like that. So, and that's what I like to talk to people about. And the more you talk to people after you've been diagnosed about that sort of thing, the more people understand the disease, and they'll be more comfortable talking to you about it. When I got diagnosed with this, I understood the outcome. I knew what sort of things were most likely to happen to me, how it was going to impact my life. But I saw it also as an opportunity for me to do a few things. So yes, it was an opportunity to obviously get my affairs in order and make sure Lisa and the boys are going to be looked after. But there's also many opportunities that came along for me to be involved in some research programs. An opportunity came out of nowhere where I started going to pub choir, and which was just a thing that I loved doing. Two things I loved to do. I loved drinking beer, and I loved singing, and I got into this thing called pub choir. And just through that, you see some really, really good things from people. And there was the fundraiser that we did, and it raised nearly $20,000. So that was, and that sort of gives you a real boost, if you like. You might be feeling down after your legs are feeling like crap, your hands aren't working really well, but that sort of thing really gives you a shot in the arm, if you like. And then we came up with the idea of doing our own little fundraiser, and it was more about awareness, but all of a sudden it's raised a truckload of money as well. So that was another good little thing that came out of this. So to me, while it's taken away a lot of things, and it will take away more things in the future, it's also given me a lot of opportunity to still be involved in the community, and to help out where I can. And I tell you what, sometimes when you come home from these functions and fundraisers and that sort of thing, you really think, I've got this covered. This thing's not going to beat me. So it's a great inspiration, if you like. And it's you can come home feeling 6 foot and tall and bulletproof from some of these things. And that's not just fundraisers. It's from spending time with your family and friends as well. Just having decent conversations. And there might be conversations about MND. It might not be about MND. But it's that opportunity. I've got a lot of time on my hands to spend time with people. Just go and have a coffee with someone you don't see that regularly. So it's that's how I saw it right from the very start. It was yes, it's terrible, but I'm going to make the most of it, because not all of us are going to get the same sort of opportunity to to get our shit together, if you like, and put all our ducks in a row, ready for what's next. When people think about when the end of their life is going to be, it's I guess it's one of those conversations when you're nice and healthy and that's when there's no problems. You can be a bit flippant about it, but when you've been given a terminal diagnosis, while you don't want to think about it, sometimes you've got to think about it. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So how I've approached this whole thing is, okay, yes, I was told by the doctors early in the piece, average life expectancy is 27 months. Well, I've passed that. That was last September, so I've killed that one. Most people, 90% of people may not live past their 5th year. I've got no doubt that I'm going to live past 5 years, because there's still too much to do. And I'm really of the firm belief that the more I keep active, the more I keep doing, and whether that's things outside or just doing stuff from home here, like I keep, I've still got a purpose in life, then I think that's contributing to how long I'm going to be around. My wife keeps joking. She says, "You're going to outlive me." So, and I think having a positive attitude about it really has helped. And people ask me, so how do you keep a positive attitude? And I say, well, we're all in the draw to die eventually. Unfortunately, I've been told that, what's going to take me out in the end. But it's certainly not anyone saying, all right, well, this is your date. So up until whenever it's going to be, I'm just going to keep I'm going to keep living as best I can. Yes, it's limited, the things I can do now, but I'm going to keep celebrating milestones. I'm going to keep celebrating my son's achievements, their 21st birthdays, hopefully weddings down the track, children maybe, becoming a grandparent. So I'm going to keep celebrating all those things, and I actually just set myself little goals too. Okay, well, that one's out of the way now. My next one is, another 18 months down the track, so-and-so is going to turn 21. I want to be at their 21st birthday party, one of the kids might be having kids, maybe by the time they're 25, 26 or whatever. I'm going to be around for that. So That's how I approach it, and it all sort of goes back to how I was talking about treating this whole thing like a little project. You know, it's certainly got a timeline, and where that timeline finishes, who knows? But up until then, I'm not going to concentrate on the end of the timeline. I'm going to concentrate on all the things in between. So my whole thought process around this disease was, yes, it's crappy, but how can I be shitty about what the outcome is going to be when then I know that, you know, I've been told what my end's going to be, but there's a lot of people who don't get told what their end's going to be. You know, someone gets in the car one day, goes to work, but they don't come home for whatever reason. You know, car accident, you know, work accident, whatever. So how can I be shitty about this, knowing that I've been given an opportunity, and to me, I feel a little bit sheltered from the sort of the outside world, or, you know, a little bit protected in that I'm not going through all the other crap that goes on in other people's lives anymore. I'm not sick. I've never classed myself as being sick. I've got a disease, but I'm not sick. But I've been given an opportunity to, you know, have a great life, however long that's going to be, whereas a lot of people don't get that. What I've learned from this diagnosis is, yes, it's not going to end up well, but that doesn't have to define how between now and then is. I would say in the last 3 years, Lisa and I have done more living, I guess, than what we have in probably in the last 15 years. You get sort of wrapped up in your other world, so your work, your kids, and sort of looking after them and make sure that they're getting to their places that they need to be. Take some time and think about you for a little while, and just remember that there are people who are really willing to help. Sometimes they don't know how to ask, but if you get the conversation going about it and show you're not afraid to talk about it, you never know what comes out of conversations about who can help you with what. And you know, someone you can say, oh, I'd really love to you know, spend some time at one of the beaches, you know, and have a week down the coast. All of a sudden, it happened to us. We were talking about Lisa loves the beach, and a friend of a friend just said, we've got a unit up the coast. Do you want to spend a week up there? So it's yes, lots of bad things happen, but some good things can come out of it, and friendships can really blossom in this if you go in with the right attitude. And sometimes that right attitude is hard to have and hard to hold on to, but if you keep working on it, it can be very rewarding.